And I know in your role with Heidrick and Struggles, you're all about understanding a company's culture,
Right.
and then finding the right man, the right woman to fit in that particular role that they're asking you all to fill.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how you evaluate culture and fit, and just what you've seen in terms of the significance of making that happen.
Well, for smaller businesses, entrepreneurial businesses, perhaps early stage companies, it's very difficult to try to transition someone that comes out of a bigger company culture into a smaller company culture, because typically they're used to having staff and resources and lots of different really resources of that company, and it's a tough fit culturally. So we will spend a lot of time visiting with that individual about the things that are important to them, whether they can roll up their sleeves, whether they have the work ethic, whether they can really get into the trenches.
Because a lot of the people you talk to have already done that in their career. They've already made
Sure.
their bones and paid their dues, so to speak.
Right.
But to go to a smaller company, there'd be some of that going back over and starting again to some degree.
Yeah, and so if I'm interviewing a candidate for a leadership position for a smaller entrepreneurial company, and they are spending a lot of time talking about, again, the perks and privileges of the position, and you know, what kind of budget do I have to work with, what kind of staff do I have to work with, it sort of raises some flags.
Right. So it's not only just the personal perks,
Yeah.
but it's, you know, how big a company, and
Yeah.
do I have enough resources to do
Right.
what I need to do at the level I'm used to doing it?
Sure.
When most of the time those smaller companies don't have those kind of resources.
No, and they're not looking for that kind of person. They're looking for the kind of person who is asking a different question.
Such as?
What's the upside? You know, what's the vision? Where are we taking this organization? Are they more excited and passionate about that than they are about some of these resource questions?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So that's how you examine the cultural fit.
Tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, about what you've seen happen when there's been a misfit culturally and person-wise, and obviously without naming names.
Right.
But just kind of what you've seen happen when that happens.
Well, it's a disaster. I mean, I mean, I can give you several. I think probably the mistakes that I've made in this business is not more precisely evaluating the culture fit. I mean, you can evaluate competence. It's a lot easier because you can look at results. You can look at how many individuals that leader has managed. You can look at businesses they've grown. You can look at those metrics that go to the issue of competence and mind. The culture fit's a little bit harder, you know, to assess and evaluate. And in our business, you have to spend a little bit more time on that, particularly in the senior level positions. So we've had a couple of situations where an individual has, you know, joined as a CFO or a CEO, and you know, they were gone within 3 to 4 months because it just didn't fit culturally. And either they quit because they didn't realize how small a company it was and how few the resources were, or the board or the CEO was forced to terminate them because they just weren't the right fit culturally. So more time needs to be spent on the cultural side as opposed to just the competence side.
I'm curious about something because, you know, in the church world, when we interview someone or pray about bringing someone on staff, you know, obviously they're a Christ follower, you'd like to think, and you look at their resumes and you do those kind of things, but I think my experience has been that most folks don't spend that much time thinking about the culture. They think, we have a spot, this person, this man, this woman has done this in the past, great, let's go. How would you counsel or advise churches to really, you know, handle that culture aspect?
Well, I would first of all name it. I would identify it as an area of emphasis in evaluating people. Just by talking about it, you've taken the right step.
Right.
And
So
spend.
if you find someone, sorry to interrupt you,
yeah.
but if you find someone who is a great person, obviously morally, leadership-wise, they've got the gifts, but for whatever reason they don't fit culturally, don't do it.
I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't just look at the culture issue. I mean, I would look at, you could look at it, maybe you could call it the 4 C's, and I'm just sort of talking out loud with you right now. Obviously, Christ. There's got to be, you've got to have that mature, seasoned kind of walk with the Lord. Not that that individual is perfect at all, but there's a transparency, there's a real fruit, there's fruit in their life. So that's the Christ aspect. There's the competence aspect. You know, are they qualified for that specific position by virtue of their experience and their background? Do they have a real expertise? Culture. Obviously, will they fit as part of the unique culture of that ministry,
right,
whatever it is? And spending the necessary time to make sure that
they don't.
It's okay if they
The
don't.
culture's wrong.
No,
they're wrong.
it's just not the right fit.
And that's
No,
okay.
Exactly. And then the final one is the character side. You know, do they have the right qualities of character in terms of, you know, are their motivations right, ambitions right? Do they have a high level of integrity? Are they a truth teller? All of those things that tell you about someone's character. Have they really been able to deal with adversity and grow and learn from adversity? That tells you a lot